Aloha. Thank you so much for coming. This is a Global Hope event. I have a few announcements at the beginning. My name is Noelle Rodriguez. I'm the advisor for Global Hope. And I just wanted you folks to know that we were trying very hard to get a Bernie Sanders, what's it called? A streaming on what's going on in the nation for tuition relief, to get free tuition across the nation, especially for community colleges. But we were going to do that on Tuesday, and now we're not quite sure we can do it. But stay tuned. We might put out an email saying, yes, we're going to do it on Tuesday. We're not sure right now. And the other thing is that, yes, we're continuing with our series of America in Crisis, and we all eat. We all eat. Every day we eat. This is a disturbing video because you start finding out what's behind the food you're eating. But you really have to be more sophisticated and come out of watching this video next Thursday, understanding the world that you're in much better and perhaps be able to protect yourself a bit. Okay, and folks, to me, introducing Jen Ruggles is actually very emotional for me because I absolutely love Jen. Her father was my student. I think your mother was my student too. I'm very old. But what's amazing about Jen is the first class she took with me. I looked at her and I thought, pretty blonde, blue-eyed, she must be from California. Ever. She was from the woods of Puna, you know, the jungles of Puna. And in that first semester that she was my student, I don't think I heard her speak virtually at all. I mean, she was the shyest, quietest person, you know, just amazing. But by the second and maybe the third class she took with me, I suddenly started seeing unfold before my eyes an individual with enormous passion for social justice and public service. Someone who is doing what she is doing today, and that is she's a voice for the voiceless. She's a servant for the people who do not have advocacy in their behalf in most of our government. She's there for the people, and I'm so proud of her.
Testing. Oh, there we go. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds like there's a lag, so it's a little weird for me. So how do I start? Well, first, thank you for being here, and thank you for caring enough about how to become a servant to your community. That's really where it started. I was really shy when I first went to college, and then I joined Global Hope, and I sort of saw this bigger need for stuff that happened, and I saw a lack of organization, really, and that's what I learned how to fulfill through volunteering to Global Hope. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to use a different mic. This is kind of distracting. Testing, there we go. This is way better. So I saw a lack of organization. Things like creating agendas, staying on time, and really the issues getting mixed up with personal egos, really. in my entire experience of organizing, and especially on Kauai, I learned a lot. And when people ask me what my biggest challenge was, I'm not going to tell you right now, but you'll know it by the end of this presentation. So, just to give you a little bit about me, I started here in Global Hope. We showed over, well, I personally helped show over 40 movie nights here. We've organized 4 concerts, 11 speaking engagements where we've had people from all over the world come. We've had 6 rallies and marches. I helped pass Hawaii's first clean elections law. I then went to a community organizing training in Chicago and came back to apply what I had learned. And that's what led us to the Papaikou Beach Access Fight. And we, after 3 years, we led this huge campaign. We had over 5,000 signatures, and we ended up passing it, and it's only now going through process, like 10 years later or something. It shows how long things take. And then I was Russell Ruderman's campaign event coordinator. I worked for TEDx Hilo, Green Collar Technologies as an event coordinator, and then I was hired by Pesticide Action Network to be a community organizer over there, where we organized the largest march in Hawaii history. I coordinated over 40 volunteers every week. I built a coalition of over 5 organizations. And we consistently brought hundreds of people to each hearing to pass a bill that would protect children from pesticide spray. Not just children, but the community. Because over there you have communities that are surrounded by GMO fields. And they spray over 300 days a year, and the pesticides just waft into the schools. There were incidences where twice teachers and students collapsed and were sent to the hospital in Waimea Canyon School. And that's just one incident. I mean, they're finding wild pigs with deformations, the reef are dying, the fish are dying. It's atrocious what's going on over there. So we were able to pass a bill that required them to have buffer zones between waterways, schools, and hospitals, and provide disclosure on what they were spraying, where, when, how much. And while it was a huge movement to pass, and we had thousands of people involved, 4,000 people came out in March, and that's a lot for the little tiny island of Kauai. And it took a lot of organizing, and so I'm going to share with you what I learned. So this is the beginning of an issue or a problem. We've got a big fish just sort of taking advantage, doing whatever it wants, and hurting all the little fish. This is where we want to be. I'm going to keep bringing this up. So you can't build a machine like that big fish without the nuts and bolts. So first, you got to have leaders. So what do leaders do?
Listen.
They listen. That's the main one.
They direct.
Get that on the head. What's that?
They direct.
They direct.
Organize.
They organize.
Provide a vision.
They provide a vision. You got it.
Coordinate.
They motivate and inspire. They're the face of the organization, or the face of the movement. They give the talks, they talk to the media, and they're really the face of the movement. And then we have the members and supporters. What do they do?
Bring solutions.
They bring solutions. They do the heavy lifting.
Bring new people in.
Yeah, they bring new people in.
They provide financial support.
Yes, they provide financial support. That's really important. When you have all those little fish, each one of them give $20, that's huge for an organization.
Like Bernie Sanders was $27.
Exactly. Bernie Sanders, $27 was his average donation. And he was able to run a really robust campaign. They participate in the activities. They're the ones that show up. They're the ones that make up all those little fish. And the leader is really only one of those fish, or maybe 2 or 3. But the supporters are the ones that make it happen. Then there's the technical experts. What would those be?
IT.
Yeah, IT,
Media people.
media people.
Yeah.
They're the attorneys, scientists, the people who have authority on issues. They can help protect the organization from legal issues. They provide advice and key expertise on key areas. For example, for the PubMedCo issue, we had to have a couple lawyers come out and convince the council that what we were doing was legal. And same with our pesticide bill in Hawaii. And for the styrofoam bill that we just passed, we had to have scientists come out, biologists or marine biologists come out and provide the facts. And then there's the organizers. So when we talk about activists, all of these people are activists. But what we need the most here in Hawaii is we need organizers. And why is that so important? Gotta get the ball rolling.
People to join.
Yeah. The organizers keep everyone on track. They keep track of everything. They keep everyone on the same page. They're the point person. They're the one in the background, making sure everything's taken care of. They're actually the ones doing the heavy lifting, the dirty work. But they're the ones that make it happen. They're the ones creating the agendas, facilitating the meetings, sending the follow-up emails, just filling in where there needs to be something filled in. They do group troubleshooting, they do the reports for the organization. They're always prepared with ideas and follow-up strategy. They're looking at the bigger picture the entire time. They work directly with the leaders. So, to start, we need to figure out another thing an organizer does is they see that everyone has a role. So anyone who offers up anything, they say, I'm good at drawing, I'm good at making posters, I'm good at social media, or anything. You connect that with the goal. You always take people up on what they're good at, because everyone's volunteering. And so you want to allow them to do what they're passionate about. Okay, so a good issue. So you can start off with a good issue. A good issue means that it's actually something that you can take action on and win. So there's a difference between issues and problems. So problems are things like oppression, poverty, pollution. But the issues behind those things would be they're not making affordable housing, or for pollution, banning plastic bags, or styrofoam, or Roundup. Stop poisoning kids. Pesticides, those are issues. Those are things that we can actually take action on. And it's winnable. So it's a part of a bigger problem that actually has a solution. So here's an example, factory farms. Factory farms are problems. But the issue, let's say Steve Meathead wants to build a factory farm across the street. Now that's something that we can actually take action on and win. So a good issue is winnable, it's clear, has a local decision maker to hold accountable, somebody that we can actually access and talk to. It affects a lot of people. There's a sense of urgency. It does not divide the community too much. Everything, you can't please everybody. It builds the group. If there's already an existing group, this would make the group stronger. And it's something that people think they can change and feel empowered. So let's come up with an issue.
Connectivity.
Connectivity.
Neighborhoods being connected.
Neighborhoods being connected, that's really specific to our district.
Every problem.
Yeah. Fellow?
The bus system.
The bus system. Speaking of the bus system, I'm glad that you said that. I have a really important announcement. For Puna, October 11th and 12th at 5:30, we are going to have our first public hearing that will provide guidance to the county's consultant on our first 20-year master plan for all of the improvements that are going to happen to our mass transit system. And these two are especially for Puna. The one on the 11th is in Keao at 5:30, and the one on the 12th is at the Pahoa Facility Center. And we really need people to show up. We need Puna to come out in mass because we're the poorest district in the state. We have the worst transportation and the worst access to basic needs. And because we're the poorest and we have the most disabled veterans, we have a really hard time getting around, and we have a lot of people that rely on the bus system, and it's severely inadequate for our needs. So we really need Puna to come out and show that there's a demand more bus route expansions into our subdivisions, and then whatever other ideas and concerns that you have, this is the time to bring them out, because this is the time that the county consultant is going to use this meeting to design this 20-year master plan. If you have any other questions on that, you can talk to me after. Okay, bus system. Any other ones?
You want issues or problems?
Issues. What's a good issue?
More spay and neuter.
More spay and neuter.
Animal population.
People not having their voice heard by the local roads associations, community associations. They seem to think they do whatever they want, and there's no accountability. They can
Community,
decide
road associations not being accountable.
at all.
The Kalapana dump.
Yeah, they're only open 3 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and they just, people dump their garbage out there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just, we should have the same hours as every other dump, because
I think that
the
I think-
population,
out of all of the issues that we just mentioned, there's connectivity and the Kalapana dump. I like those because they're specific. They're specific actions that we can, like a better bus system, that's kind of a problem. What we need is something specific. Are we going to add 5 more bus routes by December that go up Highway 11? That would be an issue. Kalapana, are we gonna, let's keep the dump open 5 days a week, 7 days a week. That's specific. And that affects a lot of people. There's a sense of immediacy. It's not very divisive. It's something that we think that we can win. And it has a local decision maker to hold accountable. Same with connectivity.
Good, incentives to
So good, so who wants to use the dump and who wants to use connectivity? Let's do a vote here. Okay, connectivity. The dump. All right, got a little more for the dump. Unfortunately, we're not in Puna. Okay, so now we have to craft a demand based on the issue. So the demand has the same criteria as a good issue. A clear what, who, and when, a yes or no answer. Are you going to keep the dump open 5 days a week by December? Yes or no? That's a good demand. It's simple and it's clear. So here we are. We're still wondering now, how are we going to get the county to keep the dump open 7 days a week? This is where we want to be. It starts with meetings. How important are meetings?
very important because it organizes people.
Dang, it's blocking my word. Well, they're very important. Basics of a meeting. Meetings are where the magic happens. And in order to have a good meeting, you need an agenda. And you need a facilitator. You really need a facilitator. Why is it so important to have a facilitator?
Have a single voice or a single thought instead of 20 people saying 20 different things.
It organizes the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they keep people on track. They make sure no one is talking over each other. They keep us on the agenda. They make sure that the meeting stays on time. They take stack. Do you guys know what taking stack is? So taking stack is when somebody's talking and someone else interrupts or is wanting to talk, you acknowledge them and you write their name down. You'll be next. And then someone else talks, okay, you'll be after them, and then you write their name down. And then you'll be after them. That helps give the participants in the meeting the feeling that their voice is going to be heard at some point. And that everything that they say is important. Everything that they want to say is important. The facilitator holds people accountable for sake of time, manages outside conversation, so if people are having an outside conversation, excuse me, could you step outside or wait till after the meeting? And at the end, they're neutral. They have to stay neutral. This is important for power dynamics, because if you have somebody running a meeting and then they're also inserting their own opinions about what should happen, then it's an imbalance of power, and it's discouraging to the rest of the members. Does that make sense? So, when I was in Kauai, I played all of these roles. I made the agenda, I was a note taker, the facilitator, and whenever I had an opinion on something, I would write my name down in the stack, and then I would ask, okay, I'm going to step outside of my role as a facilitator, is that okay? And then I would just present it as an opinion, an idea for them to consider, but I wasn't something that I was going to confirm as a decision because it was my idea. And the facilitator, it's really important that they have good communication skills and they do not silence people. So if somebody is going off topic or they're having a side conversation, you have to be really tactful and saying, excuse me, can we get back on topic here? I hear what you're saying, it's really important, and let's talk about that after the meeting, and let's stay focused on the agenda so that people who came here can talk about what they came here for, and at the end, we can all stay and talk story about whatever. Usually we have potluck and stay and hang out and party. So the facilitator really needs to work on their communication skills, but the facilitator is the foundation to the entire movement, because they're what keeps the nuts and the bolts of the machine going at this meeting and making sure that the decisions are being made and the goals are on track in a way where everyone feels heard and is effective. So the facilitator is the process of the meeting, not the content. And we need to have a note taker as well. Let's see, how do we go back? Oh, let me show you guys an example. Well, first I'll finish this. So a note taker, everyone knows what a note taker is, right? So the note taker works with the organizer and the facilitator. And this is an example of an email that I sent out on Kauai. So we were having weekly meetings. They were either every week or every 2 weeks. And it was about 40 to 60 people at each meeting. It was the coalition of all of the different groups for this bill. And this is an example of what our agenda looked like. I would write the agenda on a big whiteboard and put a time slot for each item and make sure everyone agreed to it, and I would keep it under an hour and a half. It's really important you keep your meetings short, otherwise people are going to get discouraged. And then I would ask at the beginning of the meeting, does this agenda look good? How's the time look? And make sure everyone agreed and was on the same page. So this is what I would send out. At least the day beforehand, and people could send me what they would want on the agenda. And then at the end of the meeting, I would sit down and compile all my notes and draft a follow-up email on what we discussed and what we decided on and who was doing what.
Does the facilitator try to get the names of people that will be coming to the meeting so they are not surprised there's only 3 people or 3,000 people? They know ahead of time that basically who's probably going to show up, or is that not part of the facilitators?
It could be. It depends on the context. Yeah. So at the previous meeting, we talked about reaching out to the tourism industry, doing educational events, hooing up the west side of the island, which is where a lot of the GMO activity was, making signs, flyers in Ilocano, doing video testimony. These are all ideas that people would come up, oh, we should do this, we should do that. Like, okay, great. I'd stop them. Would you be willing to do that? And if they said no, there's like, does anyone else here think we should do that or would like to step up for that? If no one stepped up for it, then we weren't doing it. But if somebody did step up, I'd write their name down and I'd send it in the follow-up email, and then the next meeting, they would be on the agenda to give us an update on how far they got with that. Media, radio ads, affecting the decision makers, which was the council at this time. Doing research, we had people that had bees that were testing for pesticides in the beeswax. There was also a big health study that was going on, and these are all the events that we had going on. And so this was a part of an organizer, keeping everything succinct and on one page and keeping everyone informed on what's going on. And then at the end, let me know if I'm missing something, if you want to add something to next week's agenda, if you have an idea on how the meetings could be any better, or if you have a question about anything. It's a really important role, the facilitators, asking for feedback. And encouraging democratic participation. So making sure that there's procedures in place where everyone feels they have a voice in the decisions. So consensus has always worked really good for me. But this requires, a part of encouraging democratic participation is you have to use tactics when somebody is quiet, you've noticed somebody hasn't been talking, ask them what they think, or go in a circle and ask everyone what they think. But you want to make sure everyone is included, even if they don't have an opinion, at least ask. And that's how I believe we kept people coming to these meetings. We were meeting almost every week for 3 months straight. And it took, that's a lot of time on somebody's day. We had professionals coming. Asking people if they need a break, breaking up into smaller groups and then reporting back, doing votes. But I generally do the consensus model. You can look up, I'm not going to go into the details of all these different decision-making processes, but that's something that you should decide on and agree on in the beginning as a group. Conflicts. You need to be able to manage conflicts. I'm trying to pull up my notes for this. Conflicts are an inherent part of everyday life. It's an inherent part of when you have big groups of people making decisions. So you need to know how to manage conflicts, and trying to avoid conflict is a losing strategy. you have to be able to face conflict with confidence and care, and really, it's just hearing people out and reminding them that we're on the same page here, we all have the same goal, we're all here for the same reason, and learning tactics like paraphrasing. So when somebody says, I'm upset about this, so-and-so is a rat, or I've had that. So-and-so is a rat, or this person is, I don't want to work with this person on this team because they're being too flirty with me, or things like that. So I would sit down with them and say, so what's going on? How do you feel about this? And they would tell me, I would paraphrase back to them what they said, then I'd ask the other person, and how do you feel about what's going on? And then I would paraphrase back to them, and just the act of letting them know that they're heard, and that whatever they feel is valid and valuable, works magic. They're willing to let it go just through that realization of understanding and knowing that the other person understands. It's a very delicate process, and I highly recommend you take Kuikahi Mediation Center's conflict resolution. You've done that? Yeah, it's a really great program. It's $100. It's 2 weekends, but it teaches you how to mediate and deal with conflicts. And it's a great benefit, not only just for organizing people, but for your interpersonal relationships as well. So I think I lost the tail end of my notes here. That's all right. I'm just gonna have to wing it. So goals, you have to set goals. What makes a good goal? It's in alignment with the purpose. It's actually attainable, it's quantifiable, you know when you've achieved it. We know when we've achieved it when the dump is open 5 days a week. So you need to be able to set smaller goals within that, which would be write every council person a letter, and then meet with every council person. And then meet with the wastewater branch to figure out what are the challenges to having it open. And then meeting with the council person to see how we can move around funding to keep it open. Organizing people to come out and testify when that funding measure comes before the council and justifying the increased cost. And all of that is a part of a strategy. So, what's the difference between a tactic and a strategy?
Strategy is long-term, the whole thing. Tactic is kind of one thing you might do, 2 or 3 tactics.
Yes, exactly. So what he said is strategy is a part of a long-term mission, and then tactics are all the little things that you do to get there. Did you have something?
You could say a tactic is like a specific way to do something, so you could have multiple different tactics to approach a single thing, and then on the next agenda you could have multiple other tactics for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So tactics are pieces of your strategy. You need to define these tactics. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of those. So the march that we did was a tactic. Reaching out to the tourism industry was a tactic. Putting up signs everywhere, putting up signs, holding signs at the airport is a tactic. We did that on Kauai. We put on a gas mask and stood out like, welcome to Hawaii! And that caught good media attention.
And it's great media.
Yes.
You use the media, don't let the media use you.
Yes, use the media. So it's important to have a media person. Somebody that's just dedicated to working the media. You can have 2. You want one for social media, and then you want one for the paper and flyers. So somebody that writes the press releases, puts out the events, frames the issue. You want to be the one framing the message, not them. On Kauai, they were framing our message as being anti-farming group because we were shutting down the farms by making them put up buffer zones. So we learned the hard way that we had to get that press release out there before they wrote it. Go ahead.
What about the media that we see usually on TV, like local news media.
So you can send them stories and they'll report it. You can just send them little bits of your message, and usually they don't even check. They'll just read it. And in fact, what's really funny is because of that actually passed, we didn't think about sending it to KHON and KITV, and then when they reported on our march, they said it was for GMO labeling. Anyway, so good strategy. So I'm going to talk about targets in a minute. You want to make sure it's fun. What you're doing is fun. That's really important. So the target. Who's the target? Who would be the target in getting the dump open 5 days a week?
County Waste Department?
The county waste department. Yeah, it would be the county Department of Environmental Management and the county council. Which would be me, 'cause that's my district. So identify your target. So people make decisions. So you can't just say, it's the county. Who in the county? Name them. Yeah. You can't put pressure on a building, but you can put pressure on people. So try to focus on one, if you can. Though when it comes to government, so all of these apply. In fact, how I learned all of this, it was outside of government decisions. A lot of these strategies and tactics had to do with abusive landowners in Chicago and in the cities where they're foreclosing on people or just they're managing these really terrible slums. And these are strategies that they would use to get the landlords to do the right thing and start treating their tenants with more respect. Know your enemy. If you know your enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself and not your enemy, for every victory gained, you will suffer defeat. If you know neither an enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. How many of you know where that's from?
The Art of War.
Yes, it's the Art of War. But we're going to call them adversaries instead of enemies. Or decision makers.
Powers to be.
Your adversaries will resist, they'll refuse to acknowledge your group. So on Kauai, we had a lot of adversaries. But we had to stay focused on the decision makers, and that was the county council. But we did have to keep in mind that a part of the adversaries, they were influenced by the ultimate adversary, which was Monsanto, BASF, Syngenta. Yeah. And this is what they would try to do. They would try to demean or discredit our group. They say that we're just a bunch of environmentalists, hippies, that hate farmers. They'll want to be our friends. They'll deny things, they'll try to define and marginalize us, and they'll do anything to get us to shut up. Oops. So I'm going to teach you a power analysis. This is a part of building a strategy and knowing your adversary or the decision maker. So let's say I'm the decision maker. What do I want and care about?
Winning.
Winning the next election?
That's not a lot.
Basically, keeping your job.
Keeping my job.
Respect.
Respect, being respectable. Reputation. You gotta do a little more research. I care about how my family feels about me. I care about my property. I care about being effective on the county council and maintaining my relationships and able to do that. And so what you would do is you would write those things down. in those bubbles, and then ask the question, how can you stand in the way of what I want and I care about? So you could put out media blitz trying to discredit me. What else could you do? That would ruin my reputation.
Make up lies about it.
Make up lies about me.
Well, find people that you listen to and talk to them.
Find people that I listen to and talk to. Find people that I care about and talk to them. And then you want to ask, who do I have influence over? I have influence over my colleagues, over a little bit over my constituents. They might, I do have a small following of people that might believe me over an outsider. I have influence over my family, I have influence over my friends, I might have more influence over the mayor than other people,
The departments you in,
the departments. And what does this tell you about me that you can use, or at least need to be aware of? And what do I fear? This is a part of sort of, well, what do I want? But also, like, well, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of losing my reputation,
effectiveness.
being effective. Yeah, so you would map out what are the things that I'm afraid of, and then think about what could you do to bring that closer to me.
Your family's reputation.
My family's reputation, yeah, I would fear losing my family's reputation.
Financial stability.
My financial stability. Yeah, those are all good. And then who has influence over me? My colleagues, the mayor, my constituents, the governor. Well, one thing we didn't bring up was reporters for the media. Just the people who are closest to me. I mean, probably my father or my family, my closest friends, my people I look up to. Noelle has influence over me. And then is this somebody that you can influence?
Kind of like a two-way street.
Would public opinion be one? That you have influence over public opinion?
And also it would be something that has influence over me. Yeah. So you want to map out these relationships and be able to utilize them to the best of your ability. And you may want to do a power analysis on another relationship. Like maybe somebody who has influence over me, map out who their relationships are. So overall, your responsibility as the organizer is to keep everyone on the same page, focused on the goal. No, it's not about you, it's about service, to empower all of these little guys to be able to do this. Talking will not cook the rice. And that's it.
Oh, wait, show that again, that march. How many people then and how many followers?
Oh yeah, 4,000.
4,000 in the streets.
Yeah, that was Kuwaiti. I'm sorry, I had a little bit more to say, but the last page of my notes didn't print. So are there any questions?
So when you call out people who aren't really speaking in those circle groups, are you trying to say that they might have more of a neutral opinion in, like, saying these are the pros and cons of both sides of the people who are talking out?
your question is the people that we map out.
No,
He was going back to the earlier when you were trying to get people to be involved.
in
Acquire
your,
people.
in your meetings, is that what you were saying? Is that's why you were calling out those people who weren't really speaking and being all quiet in those meetings?
Why? Why was that?
To get them involved.
Yes, to get them involved.
Sometimes people may not feel confident, so if you acknowledge that they're present, then that makes them feel more comfortable.
Alright.
Yeah, and letting them know that their opinion is important.
Yeah.
Because you need good ideas. And some people have really good ideas and they're just kind of sitting on it, but they don't have the confidence, or maybe they feel like it's not welcome, or the really loud white guy's opinion will be more important. I wanted to point this out. The whole point of that power analysis is being able to develop tactics of your overall strategy to get your target to do the right thing. They have the ability to end it at any time. All they have to do is say yes to your demand. It's simple, it's clear, it's justifiable. You have to give them every reason to say yes, and then it's over.
I got a quick question. Now, in elected officials such as yourself, the mayor, state government, they are accountable to the people that vote. However, in local neighborhood associations, they are not accountable. They get to say and rule however they want, despite 100% of the people against them. How do you overcome such a
Aren't they
thing like that?
voted in? Aren't they voted in?
They're voted in by a corrupt means in my neighborhood.
Some of, because there's no accountability, the elections can kind of be questionable.
Like in my community, real quick, my community, there was a election committee to make sure you were eligible to run for the board of our neighborhood. Well, the president of my community disbanded that board, and he's running for office, and he decided that the people that were running against him are not eligible, and now he has nobody running against him. He's going.
Right. But these are tactics that you put in play.
So you
Through-
can win over something like that?
Yes, let me show you.
Because it's like totalitarianism sometimes, and people get like, I tried for years and I didn't get nowhere, it's pointless, some people seem to think. They're running up against your
I have a picture of that fish. What you gotta do is organize the people, map out the power analysis.
There's so much
Let's start there.
discouraged people now that, I guess you gotta encourage them, I guess.
Read the bylaws of your association.
They change them every month. They change them every month.
Get the latest copy.
This weekend, they told me I would be arrested if I videotaped my road meeting, that I would be placed in jail if I were to go like this and videotape them like I've done every other meeting. Well, I tried to call a police officer and he never returned my call, so I don't know.
It's, you can
Go ahead.
record.
So-
Record everything. Anywhere you wanna go to doctors, like how people treat me, police officers.
Well, if they make a bylaw saying you can't do that. They said, we're not a democracy, we're a corporation.
Well, I think that's a legal question that I don't know if we're prepared to answer here. But go ahead.
So I was thinking, so if that's happening, so this is a community elect, right?
Yes,
So-
just in neighborhood, yeah.
So it's the people that gave them power. If it's happening like that, why not try
Basically,
to?
people own land there, but they don't even live in Hawaii, so the powers that be contact them and say, vote for this person, vote for this. They don't even ever live here, but they own property, so. that's
Hold
all.
on, I want to just say one last thing. The real key takeaways that I want you to take away is one, being an activist and being an organizer, the foundation of that is knowing it's not about you. It's never about you. the biggest challenge that I've faced in my entire career of organizing is power trips. Is people thinking that it's about them. We have people, leaders that come up and they start coming and telling the group what we're going to do. That's the biggest problem. That's not a leader. The leader asks the group what they want to do and then provides input. And then the second thing is that the foundation to any movement is being able to be organized, being able to keep track, run good meetings, and do it in a way that builds equality and respect for everyone and empowers people, not disempowers people. A good organizer will not have their name on anything. A good organizer doesn't take credit for any of it. Go ahead.
I was wondering, so how can a leader or an organizer like deal with possible slander or like corruption inside their own organization?
How can a good organizer deal with slander or corruption within their own organization? Does anyone have any ideas?
Have rules as to what the goals are, what the core values are.
Having rules as to what the core values are?
You have to have a thick skin,
Mission statement.
and not take things personal. You just say, look, you focus on goals, bring you focus back to what we do.
You have to have a good, thick skin and not take things personally.
Mediation through facilitation.
Mediation and facilitation. So if somebody is attacking you personally, which very rarely ever happens, that's actually never happened to me. And I think that's just because I stay humble and I'm neutral. And people do, it's true, I don't take it personally. That's really the key. You just gotta stay focused.
If there's a lot of internal strife, it might be hard to find somebody to fairly facilitate a meeting. And organizations like Cooley County do provide facilitators for just that kind of purpose.
Yes, never be afraid to go to a professional mediation organization. They have, I know Cooley County personally offers, they offer a sliding scale, and it's worth it.
So when they negotiate, like the county, I believe hired them to negotiate wine acres and farm, forest, road committees, are their findings legally binding? Do they have to do what they say to tell them to do, or
No,
they can just say, yeah, so what, we're gonna still do what we want to do, right?
what they're going to try to do is just create a fair dialogue and discussion that empowers all the parties to come to a solution together. Their role is to stay completely neutral, and they'll actually be there on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I'll be there too.
They actually, I don't want to make all about me, but I wanted to quickly say that they used to have where there was a public forum where people could speak. Now they close the meeting, and then the official meeting's closed, and then you get to speak. It's not on the record what anybody said now. So you can watch, you can observe.
They don't have to get documentation of people actually having a problem.
They don't want to hear it.
So you gotta be the activist, right?
Oh, I extremely am.
Yeah, but you're gonna, like, in a way that,
Non-confrontational.
yeah, because I feel your passion and your energy.
I'm not confrontational most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had something.
I just wanted you to tell the stories of some of the things that you had to deal with on Kauai, like how the very wealthy multinational corporations were able to hire people to wait to be in line to, you tell the story.
Okay, story time. Okay, so we had to navigate through 7 hearings. The bill had to pass 7 hearings where the council had to vote on it. And at the first hearing, we made the mistake of not getting there early enough, and there's only enough room in the room for 50 people at the council chambers, and they were filled with these blue short shirts that said, Gimo Movera. And farmers for jobs or something like that. Yeah, so that's all. While we were able to go up there and testify, everyone that was sitting there looking at the council people were the anti-bill group. So the next meeting, we got there, it was at 10 o'clock, we got there at 6 a.m. And we got the first 50 seats, but that one was actually in a bigger room. And the whole, I wish I had pictures, the whole courtyard was lined with people. And we had set up a tent, and, okay, I don't know if I can say this or not. I'll just say, we got a press pass, I can say that. We got a press pass, and went in there, we got a front seat, and we were able to live stream, but one of our supporters brought a generator, and so we were able to live stream the testimony and the hearing outside in a big tent, and we provided food and drinks, and it was just a big party for like a whole day. It actually lasted until 3 in the morning. The hearing. And then the next time, it was at the county building, so there were only 50 seats. The hearing had started at 8 a.m. We showed up at 4. Started the line, there were 30 of us, and then the other people showed up at 5. And then the next hearing, we thought, we were catching on, so we showed up at midnight. The day before, and then they showed up at 1. We were barely making it. And then at the last and final hearing, which was the veto, where the mayor had vetoed it, and it was going to come before them, and they were going to override the veto. I had gotten a call or a text that they had seen a couple of people sitting outside the county building, and it was 4 p.m., 2 days before the hearing. And so I was just going for a run, so I was actually in my running clothes, so I ran over there, and I stood in line. And then Nomi Carmona, does anyone know her? She's from the Phasing into Biotech. She joined me, we were standing there, and Gary came along, Gary Hooser, who was sponsoring the bill, took a picture of us standing there, and I was just like in shorts and a tank top, like freezing.
2 days before.
Yeah, 2 days before. And then I sent out a text and an email, and I started calling everyone, and we had 15 people by 7 o'clock, and then people started bringing coolers and tents, and then we had 40 people, and then the night starts, and eventually we start talking story with these guys who are sitting in their chairs, and we find out that, so before that they were able to bring workers, they got their workers to come and sit in line, and we found out the first hearing that they were flying people over from Molokai to stand in line and testify as if they were the workers here, on Kauai. And so, as the campaign went on and months went on, their own workers stopped showing up. They refused to come. And so they had to hire these homeless people. There were these 3 homeless people sitting there. And one of them was an old high school friend of Gary's son, Gary Hooser's son. And so Gary Hooser's son starts talking to him. He's like, "So you just sold out Kauai for $200, huh?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" So Gary Hooser, his name's Dylan, starts talking to him, and he's like, "Man, well, what's going on with you? Like, don't you see what this is about?" And eventually we got him to testify. First he gave us our seat. He gave us a seat for can't remember. We had a local. Young Native Hawaiian pregnant mother who was really passionate about this bill, and she really wanted to be the first to testify, and also to present all of the signatures that we've gotten. And so we wanted her to be the first testifier to open up the hearing. And so he gave his seat to her. And then the other 2 seats, eventually throughout the, let me finish the story. He testified and told the story of how somebody from Syngenta had paid him $200 to sit in that seat. And then later, at 8 a.m., at 6 a.m., the 3 hotshots from the company walk up, and they're waiting to get in their seat, and they're, well, what happened? Where's our seat? But with the other 2 people, they kept walking away, going on the phone, so one of us would just grab a chair, chuck it in the bushes, and stuff. And so eventually we got it throughout the 2 days that we were there. You gotta do what it takes to win. Yeah, there's only 2 rules: don't incite violence and don't get caught breaking the law.
Get caught, they'll just rain that down for bad press. They'll make it for all it's worth.
Yeah, and you want to keep the group looking good. You gotta know that anything you do, you are going to represent the group.
Last July, I went to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. Me and 22,000 other people, and there was not one bit of violence. There was a lot of protesting, a lot of loud yelling and screaming, but no violence. Including 10,000 Black Lives Matter.
With Armin and then you. Go ahead, Armin.
So, the thing that strikes me is the absurdity of the situation. And in that case, actually you had two adversaries. Because to me, it was, in that case, I guess the county, it's their responsibility to have the facilities. If they don't have the facilities, then a large group like that is coming in there to testify, or just to be an audience, that's their responsibility to find another facility.
No, yeah, you're right. It wasn't acceptable. They should have found a bigger facility. We shouldn't have been fighting just to be in the room. Yeah.
I was just so curious about how you're taking the model that you're presenting to like an issue-based adversary. It's not necessarily like a corporation, but maybe like a mindset. You know, just thinking about like the opioid stuff or gun violence or something like that.
Thinking about what?
Like the opioid problem or gun violence. You know, where it's not like a corporation that's showing up, but it's sort of people, how they're perceiving a problem that they couldn't really tackle. You know, it's not like there's a face to it, really.
Well,
You know?
there could be. For the opioid problem, if you really explore it, who has influence over the opioid industry and the availability of opioids? Doctors, pharmaceuticals, and who has jurisdiction over that? The state government? I don't know if county government has much authority over local doctors, but there could be. This is actually an issue that's near and dear to my heart. Ideas that I've just come up with are mandating that doctors provide an educational pamphlet outlining the reality of the addiction and what it does to people's ability to think clearly. I think that you need to be able to, if that's the overarching problem, and you need to be able to identify what is the issue that is something that we can act on and create a demand from.
Like the, it's just sort of the educational model, I guess, would be really more like where I've kind of come to questioning that issue in terms of the doctors and the prescription stuff. You know, with how it's out there, but then you move from like the Oxycontin to heroin, and then you're moving to it's not like smoking is going to kill you right away. So,
Yeah, it's a complex issue. Another thing is having actual rehabs here for that.
Yeah, just resources.
And stricter laws.
Stricter laws on prescribing it. Better alternatives, making insurance companies cover alternative medicine.
Enforcing them laws.
Yeah, so it's sort of identifying what would be a solution.
I kind of think that the enforcement stuff is just hasn't really
No.
doesn't really work.
It's like, who do you start with that's here, where you can meet
Yeah.
face to face to say, I mean, it's not hidden. You see it. We see it in our families, we see it in our school, like it's everywhere. So who do we go to? Because it is, corporations.
Yeah, it's
Like
a,
you
it's
said,
a
it's not a
state and a
face.
federal issue. Yeah, but you can put a face to it. There's a Department of Health. Yeah, I would need to really do the research on the issue.
They have a Department of Alcohol and Drug Control.
Department of Liquor and Tobacco.
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol, tobacco.
Public safety.
The counties.
Public safety. There's some guy over in Honolulu who rules over all of this.
One thing that can help in all of these kinds of situations, that like what this gentleman was talking about and we're dealing with Monsanto, is developing a really good relationship with a newspaper reporter and laying out your story to them in a way that they can see that their readers are going to be very sympathetic to people who are being, taken advantage of by the big fish, you know, and keep that relationship going, and try to keep that, and especially if your activity is ongoing, it's going to take it's going to be a multi-year type of thing, is that you keep that reporter in the loop, and they become your advocate. You know, it doesn't cost you any money.
That's a really good point. So building a relationship with the reporter that understands the issue and even might sympathize.
An honest relationship, yeah. You can't tell them lies and then expect to leave you.
Yeah. Bob?
I didn't want anybody that's sitting in the room here and wanted to be an activist and not knowing how to go about it. And so I'm going to throw out some suggestions. We have some very active things happening right now, and there's not a waiting line of people to be activists. So it's easy to get a job as an activist. One issue we're working on right now, which is the helicopter noise nuisance pollution issue. I read it on the paper today. Another issue we're working on is Helvesia-free Hawaii Island. Another issue we're working on is styrofoam-free Hawaii. Another biggie that we're have been working on, is the personal finance and financial literacy. And this is something we're trying to get into the school system. We're working with MESA, which is Every Student Succeeds Act, which replaced the FLYER. And this is so important here in Hawaii, and especially on this island, especially in Puna School, to educate the students, and I like to say this, to educate the students to be capable of being part of the 1%. You hear so much about the 1%. Not all of us can be there, because then there wouldn't be a 1%. But to educate them to do that. We just had a forum here on Sunday that the HFS put on, and we had 60 students there. And they learned in 2 hours what they haven't learned in 12 years. And they enjoyed it. And this is what we're trying to get into the school system. Also coming up every 2 years here is the election. And I say at every meeting, and Corey's going to say, I know what he's going to say, the most important thing you do is the election. And there's an example of standing up there right now. Because her predecessor wouldn't be here talking to you about what she talked to you tonight. Nor would he be doing things on that council that she's doing. And it's so important to elect good people, be involved in the election. So I'm throwing all these out, especially to the young people. If you have any interest in any of these issues, if you want to be an activist, if you want to learn how to be an activist, if you want to participate, I'm sitting right here.
Me too.
Jen, what
If
are
you-
you up to in the council? What are you doing?
Hold on, I'll get to that in a minute. I just want to say while I'm on this thought, I'd actually had a lot longer presentation. I didn't know it was going to be this short, because my previous one took 3 hours, so I figured I'd narrow it down. Trying to find a balance, but if you guys have any questions on how to do direct action or negotiations, how to deal with police, how to organize a direct action or an event, or even come up with a campaign strategy, please don't hesitate to call me. I'd be very happy to help you. My number is online. If you just look up Jan Ruggles, Hawaii County Council, my office number is on there, so feel free to call. Okay, and
What are you up to now at the council?
so, let's see, what am I up to? I'm up to a lot of things. I'm working on roads. We have a really bad road problem in Puna. There's not a lot I can say now because it isn't prepared yet. I mean, we're still working on it. We've discovered a lot of law. We're going through a lot of law. We're sending it off to different attorneys, and let's just say that there's something in the works for all of our private roads in Puna. The other thing is composting toilets, tiny homes, building codes, developing an alternative to Roundup for the county to use. That's what I can think of. Oh, and the mass transit issue, making our bus system better.
How did you feel on the property tax issue?
On what?
On the property tax issue?
How did I feel about it?
How did you feel?
How did I fail?
Well, it went and doubled it overnight.
Yeah, I voted against that.
Yeah, I know. It didn't.
Well, it was justified through, they were saying, oh, well, we're going to increase the fuel tax. They almost tripled the fuel tax because that can be used for mass transit and road repair, but it only goes to county roads, so it doesn't apply to that, really. We have some county roads, but those ones, what we really need help with is private roads. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, I want to get back to the media issue. If you make an appointment with the editorial board, you can take the key people in your organization, have a meeting with them, and give them the deep story, so that they really fully understand your side when they're putting out their articles.
Thank you for saying that. So what she's saying is meet with the editorial board of a newspaper and give them a deeper understanding of your issue, and then when they publish about it, they'll be able to report accurately.
There was supposed to be a report in August regarding the county planning commission regarding roads, and then that planning commission had resigned. Was that report ever issued, or?
I don't know.
I got a call from someone from your office saying, August, we're gonna have a report coming out from the planning commission, but I never heard anything. All I heard was the planning commission guy resigned, and that's all I heard. I was like, I don't know why he resigned, but
Everybody's resigning.
One last thing, I was wondering if
yeah,
you
he's
could
in charge
say
of the planning commission.
what happened going from being a student here, going through the organizing experience on Kauai, and then suddenly you're on the other side. Suddenly you're the government. What surprised you? What things, What did you suddenly find out that surprised you?
So what surprised me being in government?
Yeah.
Really, everybody thinks that now I have a bunch of power and I can make stuff happen. And what surprises me is how little power I actually have on the council. Because in order for projects to actually get done, you need to have the department head and finance and the mayor make it a priority. And they're the ones that dictate which projects happen. All the council does really is approve the budget. And if you start messing with the department's budget, they don't like you, and they're not going to want to do your projects. So our power is in having input and making law. And really what I'm seeing my role as is being somebody who brings my perspective, which is a very non-status quo, grassroots organizing perspective to the council, because I've sat in that testifier seat multiple times. And when people come, I just sort of get the sense from the council that the testifiers are not appreciated enough for taking time out of their day to participate, and they're not acknowledged enough, in my opinion.
Do they resent that you have like a following or a lot of your constituents coming to the county meetings, or they rib you about it, or are they
I don't
proud about it?
If they do, they don't say it to my face. Armin?
Yeah, one of the things that actually I've been remiss in as well, but how many of you people have been to a county council meeting?
Yeah, well,
And how long ago?
all the time.
All the time. I was at 2 meetings this week, and unless it was people that were, as Jen's talking about, from a department who has something to defend, I think I only saw one gentleman that had an argument with one of the resolutions that was being passed in the last couple of days. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with this whole side of the island, is there's so much apathy. No one ever goes to those things. No one's there to find out what's on the agenda and whether they're for or against. And that's what we have to do, is we have to be in front of the county council and let them know where we stand.
It really helps to have people in the room watching right in front of us. And I also want to say, Armin, that a lot of people, it's complex. It's not just apathy, it's also discouragement. And it's justifiable discouragement, I think. When we have hundreds of people show up to support or oppose a bill and the council votes against the way that those hundreds of people wanted them to, why show up? Yeah, and I also wanted to mention, just really where I also see my power being there is, for example, yesterday, the Cabo CDP, Armin was there. Just being able to call the other council members out and ask them direct questions, and they have to respond. It's in public. That is very powerful. Okay, I can't remember who. Oh yeah, you.
Oh, I was just thinking, hey, all this information could make a pretty good book. Have you ever considered compiling all this information, like your experiences and whatnot, into like a book that could be published?
No, I've never found that. It's a good idea though, but there's a lot of resources out there too.
When the county council has a meeting, isn't there some way you can see a county council member? I mean, it's rather absurd to be talking to 9 empty seats without even any video of you guys on the screen.
Oh, you mean when we're calling out for
What's the point of
Kilo?
showing up at a meeting where there's no one? no one on the county council. It's insane to be addressing 9 empty seats of the county council because you're meeting in Kona. You don't even show a screen, you show the backs of the people testifying.
Yeah, you're right. I think that could be addressed through IT live streaming us. And just having the screen.
You see no reaction from the county council. You can say whatever you want, because no, the 9 members are reacting.
We're there, we're watching it live.
It would be nice to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent most of my adult life working overseas on these kinds of projects that you're talking about, community development and these kinds of development. And one of the biggest problems that we encountered was all forms of corruption, government corruption, private sector corruption, oligarchs taking advantage of people without any power. And, we developed, a lot of ways to try to deal with it, canceling projects and overusing the examples that we would encounter to go to the, upper levels of these governments and try to dialogue with them and show them how it was damaging their economies. And that people didn't want to trade with them, the countries didn't want to trade with them because they would be so corrupt. But anyway, when I came here, when I finished that whole part of my life, when I came here and I started reading the newspaper, and I looked at all kinds of red flags in the newspaper about weird things that are going on here in Hawaii that were either strange or definitely corrupt. And I thought to myself, why do they put up with this? I mean, this is a democratic country. They have a free press. They have free and fair elections, allegedly. And yet there are all these weird things that are going on here that hurts the economy. And so I guess my question to you is, how do you deal with it? How do you see this issue?
The issue of just general corruption. Well, it's complex. I think it starts with, first of all, money in government. And one aspect of that is how campaigns are funded through big money interests, funding candidates and running them. And then there's also money in media. There's the big media complex. I know that Sinclair just bought the Tribune. It's now the biggest media outlet ever. They just spent about $40 billion. So finding independent sources for your news is really important. Firsthand social media, getting involved, letting us decision makers know that you're watching, writing us, just even sending us a comment through an email or a phone call, like, hey, I like the way you put on this, or hey, I did not like when you said this. Just letting decision makers know that you're watching. Running for office. I think really what it comes down to, honestly, in defining corruption in government is growing food. Growing our own food and being independent of a corrupt system.
The current slack of hiring practices that's been in the paper should be some show of corruption.
Yeah.
And that's happening with our doubling of taxes on roads. None of it will go to the people in the subdivision.
Yeah.
What I found very helpful as a member of the community is that Margaret really used to put out a very effective newsletter and showcasing the issues that were going to come up before the county council. So it made it easy for me to identify and then put that in my date counter and show up. So I encourage that. Just make it easy for people to because everybody's busy, everybody's overwhelmed, everybody's, got their own thing going on. But that newsletter just, boom, is very clear and easy to assimilate and accommodate and go to. Everybody on the county council knows me, I can assure you that.
Great. Everyone on the county council knows Joy.
It seems like with people going on like power trips and egotistical stuff that like it's really effective to like maybe shame them or tell your public officials, hey, we're watching you or you can't get away with it. Is that something that you have to fight, like fire with fire, like you have to go and play a little bit dirty? Because it seems really effective, right? You go after someone's values like they're eating a hamburger and driving a big truck. You say, hey, thanks for destroying the earth. They're going to think about it a little more, like, whoa. But you tell them, hey, it's 12 miles per gallon and this much carbon coming out, So it seems like what I've noticed is like when you deliver facts to people, it's almost not as effective as like making fun of them, basically.
Well, I think that there's effectiveness in playing good cop, bad cop. I think both are effective. Because just like how we talked about earlier, part of the power analysis is bringing to the forefront of what we fear close to us, which is what people think. Though you do have to keep in mind that if you're going to be putting someone down in public, or, I mean, really, it's really not that effective, actually. As a decision maker, if somebody is personally attacking me, I am less likely to listen to them. Is that helpful?
It does. It seems like how do you avoid like sliding into mudslinging and quotes and defaming someone, because it seems really effective, but it seems like you got to get a little dirty, like you guys in your gas mask, like make an impression, and like I'm just wondering if that's really part of the game for affecting change.
And that's a great point, because our standard level has dropped so severely to the lowest common denominator. That's a big problem that I see in this country right now.
Yeah, you do need to be able to hold people accountable for the facts and also do it in a way where they hear you and it's effective.
Looking at the standard, just look at our president. He was, during his campaign, he was just slinging mud all over the place. Like some toddler in the sand pit.
Yeah, that's interesting. In Hawaii, I don't think that's as effective. Like if that happened in local politics here, what Trump was doing, I don't think that would have worked here.
Hawaii's a blue state.
I'm kind of curious, like, I just from listening to the conversations in the room and some of what you're saying, I've only lived here like a year and a half, but I was definitely involved in some, activist action when getting arrested was part of the deal. And I'm wondering, like, with your role now as a political figure and the history of sort of the activism, are you finding that there is a conflict of interest with what you're talking about? I mean, I think that when somebody asks you what you can do, grow your own food, I think that's a really good response in terms of a broader sort of articulation of a feeling or how I'm going to do something in terms of personal effective change, the consumeristic culture. But I'm wondering how that stands against sort of the issues with the county and what strikes to me as a major industry in Hawaii, which is tourism. That kind of runs sort of concurrent to, what you're saying. So I just sort of wondering how you're thinking about this as a person from an activist background to kind of becoming, more of a decision maker, not a decision overturner.
One thing after it's always yeah, I'm not sure what to say.
Okay, that's legitimate.
Yeah, it is. It's complex, because I need to remember that I represent people, and that means putting aside my own personal views at times and listening to what the people want. Like, for example, roads. That was, I mean, that's not something that I expected people wanted me to work on. It's not really exciting or having to do with sustainability or anything that I'm really passionate about, but it was the #1 issue for my district.
Can I talk to you about it? Because I've definitely done that one. I've done the road thing back in Mass. And it seems that 1:30 is like a big rallying point for people just in the course of their day, talking to another person about traffic, you know, and how to deal with it. And the information coming from the state of the road would probably greatly benefit everybody if there was some, like, knowledge about how is it going to change. But it also strikes me, just from attending different meetings in different subdivisions with different political figures, that the private associations and vision for how you're going to connect these different communities is almost thwarted by the community itself not being able to know what it wants.
Right. It's a complex issue, and it's a really unfortunate situation that Puna got put in with all these private roads. And there's a lot of, there's solutions that I'm working on, and one of them was through providing support for the associations by affording a grant to Kuikaki Mediation Center to come in and help them be able to run meetings fairly, make sure that they're, to review their bylaws and things like that. There are capacity building measures that I'm working on and sort of experimenting with, but overall, I don't think that Puna should be even in this situation of having to take care of their own roads like this. It's not fair.
It isn't fair.
Is there any other questions when it comes to?
Is Puna still the fastest growing sub-district?
I believe it
in the
is.
state?
I believe it is. I can't remember where I got the source from though.
Yeah.
I know it's, we're 25% of the Big Island now, and that our, according to the general plan, our population is superseding Hilo's.
See, not so crazy because back to the county dumps, I mean, they're open. And we have everybody on that side dumping, they're dumping their garbage outside the fence. I have a picture says, where the dump's there's chickens and their little babies. And the sign says, your tax dollars at work. And I'm gonna send it to you because I'm gonna tag it.
That's a powerful picture. You should
Send me that. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna see my face.
Yeah, please.
It's a problem. Population should make it, should be put into account for making decisions, not money.
Right. Either way you look at it, money, population, taxes paid, Puna is getting a short end of the stick. Even when you look at the amount of property taxes we pay proportionally, we are not getting our money back. We're actually subsidizing the other districts still, and we're the poorest district in the state.
Yeah, it always seems like we're carrying somebody else first.
We kind of are, if you look at the numbers. Okay, anyway, thank you all for staying so long.
A better advocate than Jen Ruggles. I mean, I'm so